Hello, I'm Professor Tom Wolf, and this is day 3 of our website development capstone. I'm going to show you how to create thumbnail image links and HTML5 lists, and while I'm doing that, I'll review how to add a page to our site. So the thumbnail image links, basically the idea here is when we take pictures with our phones and digital cameras and tablets, they're usually very large. They're almost often too big to show on a web page. And so typically for using them in the page, we're going to use an editor like Paint.net or just Microsoft Paint, a simple editor. Don't have to be anything fancy like Photoshop. And we'll crop and resize them to reduce the size. Now we can also constrain the size with the CSS. So you might have noticed in the early video when we put our biopic on the main page, in the CSS I set that to never go more than 25% of the page. And so as I slowly shrink the page down and simulate what it would look like on a smaller screen, the image shrinks down, so it's always 25% of the page. And I did that with the width of the image. Okay, so the idea here though is I want to have a image that is sized to fit on the page, but when the user clicks it, it goes to a new tab and it goes full screen. And that's what I'm calling a thumbnail image link. So if we look down here at the code, because it's a link, it's going to have the anchor tag. And now notice how this works. So you have the anchor tag, and the hyperref, the href attribute, is the name of the image file, just like in the image. And then you have the target equals blank, which causes this image to be displayed in a new tab. And then within the anchor tab, you have the image tag. And the image tag, of course, is going to have the name. So the name is repeated twice. And now notice this, the class equals image class. That can be anything that I want, but basically that's a class selector in my CSS that puts those constraints I mentioned on there. So if I want all the images on this page to be 25% of the width of the page, I'd have width equals 25% in the image class, and then that would hold them to that, but when the user clicked on them, they'd open in a new tab and be full screen. So when we get to the demo, I've got an image that's fairly large, and I'll show you how this works. Now, while I'm talking about this, you can also put additional text in here, just like a normal display text. So remember the links that we did before, they didn't have images in them. They had display text here between the opening and the closing tags of the anchor. So you can actually put both in there, and you might want to do that, not to make a thumbnail image, but to make a hyperlink that had a small image like an icon and text with it. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead now and look at the HTML5 list. There's 3 of these. And I don't know that you're going to necessarily have these in your personal web page. That'll be up to you if you want to put a list in. So again, the idea here is that you make the personal web page whatever you want representing yourself. And so you might not have need for a list. But really, this is pretty much as far as I'll probably go with the HTML. I've got some additional videos for my classes that you can look at if you want to learn more. But this is really kind of the last really structural thing that we're going to learn, and you might not need it. Okay, list or block elements. So they're always going to start on a new line and end with a line break, which means that the content in the page will normally be before and after the list vertically. Okay, and then when we have list items, they're automatically displayed on separate lines. So this is just something that's common, and we have some handy syntax to do it. Okay. An unordered list is the first kind of list. This is basically a bulleted list like you see in Microsoft Word. So the list consists of an opening tag, which is UL for Unordered List, and a closing tag. And then within the list we have a series of list items, and those are done with the LI element, the LI tag. So here we have a list with two items. This is item 1, this is item 2. And here's an example. So I have an unordered list of fruit, apples, pears, and peaches. And that's how it's going to look in the browser. So it's a bulleted list, just like we see in Microsoft Word. Okay, ordered list or numbered list, and the only difference is that we use OL for ordered list instead of UL for unordered list. And so here, again, I have the apples, peaches, and pears, and there it is as a numbered list. Okay, so those are real easy to do. The third kind of list is a little different. This is a definition list. Again, you have DL as the element that you use, and that opens and closes the entire list. And now, instead of one list item element, we don't use that here. We have two elements for each item on the list. The first is the term that we want to define, so DT, definition term, and then DD, which is the actual definition. So this will be the term, this will be the definition. If we cruise down here, you can see I have a list. I have HTML, hypertext markup language, SGML, structure general markup language. So I have two elements in the list. Each element has two items, the term and the definition. And that's going to look like this. Okay? So those are pretty easy to do. If you want to style the list, we can use what's called a contextual CSS or descendant selector. You've seen these before. So basically this is a rule that applies to the list item. My rules in here are going to apply to the list item when it's in an unordered list. Similarly, these would be rules that apply to the list item when it's in an ordered list. And then you can also style the UL, OL, and DL items with element selectors, or the DT and DD elements. So I can do things like put a box around a list by adding a border to it. I can set the font on the entire list. For the definition list, I could set a different kind of font for the term from the definition. That's common to do that. And you know how to do all this now, I think. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Netbeans. Let me pause this for a second. Okay, so I'm back in Netbeans, and one thing I did at the beginning is I went ahead and copied my project folder from day 2 to a new folder called day 3. So currently my page has 2 files. So it has the 2 HTML pages, that is. So I have the index.html. Oops, having a little trouble here. This is on Google Drive, and sometimes it doesn't quite pick up. There we go. So I have my index.html, and then I have the Fav Links. And let's go ahead and take a quick look at the way that it looks in the browser before we go further. So this is where we left off. I have my 2 links, home, my links. The my links goes to my links page, which just has the 2 links on there, the University of Cincinnati and the Facebook. And then again I can click home and go back. Right now I have the image on the left hand side. Okay, so we're going to add a new page to the site, and let me go back to Netbeans. And the easiest way to do that is again to copy that first page. So let's copy our index.html, and then we'll go back up to the site root and paste it back in. And Netbeans won't allow us to have a file with the same name, so the new file will be index1.html. Alright, I'm going to call this lists, so I'm going to rename it. I just clicked on it to name it, just like you do in Word, in regular Windows. And so you can see here list.html, and now I'm going to open the new file. So list.html. Okay, now one problem is that I have these two existing pages. I got the third page, and I have to add a link in to each of them to the new page. And one of the things I want to do is I want to kind of keep the menu the same here, the navigation menu, because it looks weird when it jumps around. Okay, so and also I have to fix a few things here. So let's go through this methodically. So I'm going to go to the index.html page, and just to save time, I'll copy this last hyperlink, paste it in, and then just change it. So this is going to be lists, and I guess I'll call this my lists. Okay, and then because I'm going to put that same thing on the other two pages, I'll copy that whole thing out. I got it changed. So I'm using Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste. Okay, now I'm going to go to the Fav Links page, and I have to fix something here. No, I actually have it right. Okay, I made a mistake. I thought there was something we had to fix here. So now I'll just go ahead and copy this in here, and then I'll go to the list page, and this got copied, so this is actually a mistake. So I'm on the list page, so this should be index.html. That's the thing I was thinking I had to fix on the other page. And then this is the new link. Now, because this is the links page, basically instead of the file name I put the # in here, because that's a link on that page. And I have to fix the one on the favorite links page too. So let's go back to the favorite links. So you see how the favorite links is linked to itself in this middle one right here? That's basically just when the user clicks it, that's going to force the browser to reload the page you already got loaded. So we set the # there to prevent that from happening. Okay? So basically each page has a # for its own link. So if we go to index, the home page has a #. If we go to Fav Links, my links has a #. If we go to list, my list has a #. And notice how all three of them are in the same order. Now watch what happens when I go to the page. There's the new hyperlink. When I go to my links, it has the 3 links too. When I go to my list, it has the 3 links as well. So now the pages again are all linked together. Now right now my list has the content that I copied from index. So I'm going to remove that. So let's go back into Netbeans. Make sure you're on the list. You don't want to accidentally change the wrong page. And let's start by just I'm going to leave the link in there because that's the first thing I'm going to use. So since I already have a link, maybe that's a bad idea. Okay, I'll just redo it from scratch. So I'll just take out everything in main. Oh, and you know what? I almost forgot. We have to put the title in too. So if you want a separate title for each page, you would put that here in the H1. Okay? I'm going to leave mine the way they are. So the title is always going to be the same on the pages of the site. It'll be Tom Wolf's Lair. If I wanted to, I could put a subtitle in here that would reflect the page. So for instance, on this page, which is lists, I could do this. Oops. I'm not allowed to use title again, so I'll use it as a class. And then, so this would be my lists. Okay. I'll show you how that looks. I don't know that we necessarily need to do that, but I want you to see that you can. Okay? So I go to the list page. You can see now the little subtitle, my list here. And of course I didn't put any styling on that or anything. So if you want a subtitle for each individual page, you can do that. What some people do is they don't have a main title that's the same on all the pages. So you could change this to have My Lists. So again, these are all options that you can do. Okay, let's go on back. I don't think I like that, so I'm going to take that out. Again, if you want to change the main title on each page, you can. So instead of them all being the same, they'll reflect what's on the page. And then let's go ahead now and deal with the content here on our list page. So I guess I should start by showing you that hyperlink that I talked about, and then we'll do the lists. So I'm just going to put it right here. I got to be honest with you, I'm not trying to create a page that looks nice and is nicely laid out. I'm really just trying to show you the stuff that we talked about today. So this is not designed to be pretty, okay? Okay, so I'm going to put in a anchor, and then href equals, this will be the name of the picture that I want to go full screen, and we'll play around here because Netbeans might let me drag it in here. Let's see if it does. Okay, well, that's not what I wanted, but that's pretty useful because that is the source for the image, and that's going to go inside the A link. So this is pretty cool. Mainly what I wanted to try to do is avoid having to type in the name of the picture, because that's real easy for me to make a mistake and then I have a broken link. Okay, so here we go. href equals hawkforging02.jpg, and then we want to say target equals underscore blank, and that's the end of the first part of the A tag. And then I'll hit escape to get rid of that. There's the image, so then I'll just come on through here and close the A tag off. And now again, with our images, you should always put an alternate text to for accessibility reasons. So if a person is visually impaired, that's really important to them. Okay, so Tom driving a drift through a tomahawk head. So that's a picture of me doing some forging. I'm a blacksmith and I really enjoy that. Okay, that's enough. Let's go ahead and see how this is going to work. So we'll go to the My List page. There's the image. Right now it's unconstrained, so I don't have any size on that. So you can see that's too big. So if I click on it, it does go to a new page. Now, again, the ones that we already used, they have style on them, so I'll have to add some style in here for this. So let's go back to Netbeans, and if we go and open our style sheet, main CSS. By the way, all three of the pages use the same style sheet. That's how they all look the same in terms of their styling. So you can change that if you want to have completely different style on a page. You can just add a new CSS to it. Alright, so I think the problem here is that I have rules for my bio pic, which are right here, but they only apply to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy those rules, and I'll do that down here. You know what? I'm going to just copy that right after itself. When you do this, you have to be real careful not to screw up the markup here. So I want this to go here between these two. I'll put in a little extra white space. Control V to paste them in. And then we're going to make this a class selector. So I'll take out the bio pic, and I'll say img dot, and then I forget what class I gave that, so now I have to go back and look. I always do that. So I'm on my list page, and it looks like I forgot to insert the class in the image there. Let's see. Yep, there's no class there. So class equals, let's see, we'll call this norm So the idea is that all my images will have this kind of shared style when they're just in a page. Okay, so then I'll go back here to the CSS, and that's going to be image.norm, and I think we're good to go. Okay, so then norm, see here's the max width, 25%. That's going to change the width. And then I just copy the rest of this here. Now, I might not want to float this, so I'm going to take that out because that'll change depending on that. So not every norm image is going to get floated to the left or the right. So I have to figure a different way of putting that in. In fact, I might have them all float to the left if I put one after another or something like that. Okay, let's save this. Let's go ahead and take a look now. And so now when I go to my lists, here is the new constrained image using the style rule, so it's 25% of the width. And then when I click on it, it opens to full screen. Okay? And there's that drift I was telling you about, and I'm hammering it through to form the eye for a tomahawk. So I'm a burly forging wizard. Okay, let's go back into Netbeans. And now we'll deal with the lists. And I'm going to go ahead and close this over here just so we have more screen space. So everything shows up nicely. Can't get that to... There we go. Okay. Okay, again, everything goes in the main. So again, I'm not going to try and make this pretty. I mainly want to just show you the lists. Alright. So, again, an unordered list is UL. We'll put the closing tag in, make some space, and then the list items are like this. Okay? And maybe I'll make a list of things that I forge. So tomahawks. I'm never sure how to spell that. For some reason I always forget how to spell that. That's right. Okay. Axes. Adzes. Those are woodworking tools. And gouges. So these are all woodworking tools except for the tomahawk, which is more of a weapon than anything. Alright, let's take a quick look again. And by the way, when I launch this, it's showing the home page. You've probably figured that out. So click here to look at links. There it is, and there's my list. Now, I think I could float the image, and I might be able to get the list to show up over here on the left. It's worth trying that here. It won't take but a minute to try that, so let's do that. So let's see, image norm. Again, this is kind of crazy because I have to be careful when I put these in. Like if this is a single case, I should write a single rule for it. So this is supposed to be a general rule, and by adding the float in, I might not be able to use it as a general rule anymore. So you have to kind of think about how you're doing your stuff here. Whoops. Alright, we want to go ahead and launch this again on my lists. And there you go. And obviously I have to do some work here. So I need to put some margins around the image. And I can do some styling here on the tomahawks. Really, I don't want this... what do you call it? I don't want my footer to be up on there. I want it down here. So sometimes it gets kind of hairy when you have to work around this stuff. And in this case, I just don't have enough content here yet. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let's put some styling on our list real quick. And we'll go ahead and let that go. Alright. So I can just go ahead and style the list directly, and if I do that, then that means all the lists will have that style, and I'll do that. But if I wanted to have different lists with different styles, then I'd have to use ID selectors or class selectors. So since this is brand new and there's nothing related to it, I'll put it at the bottom of the file. I mentioned that before. I try to keep everything organized here. So UL, let's go ahead and put some style on that. And I think something that would be real good is to put a border around a list. That'd be kind of interesting. So border, and then the first element here, this is the shorthand for the border. That's going to be the width, and then the style, I'm going to go with solid. We could try the double. Let's try one that's different. I haven't shown you that. I usually just do things the same way. And I think we've been making those red, so we'll do red for the color. Okay? And then I should put some margins around this as well. So margin, let's say 1 EM. That'll put some space between the border and the border of the picture. And let's see, that's pretty good. Okay, so now why don't we write some rules for the elements in the list. So again, those are list items. So UL, LI, so that means rules for the list item when it's in an ordered list. Okay? So let's say font. Oh, here, let me move that down to the next line, just because we've been doing it that way. There we go. Font size. Let's make this 1.5 EM. That's a little bit bigger. I think right now it's 1 EM, which is the default. And then we can set the color. Let's see, what's a good color here? I'm not good with colors. So I have a yellow background. Purple would probably look kind of crazy. We'll try that. Okay, and then if I wanted to, I could go ahead and do the font face too, but that's probably enough just to show you. So again, let's take a look at this. And I think I'm just going to go right to Firefox and refresh it this time, so I don't keep opening all these windows. Okay, it's coming along. Oh, that's interesting. So I do have a bit of a problem here. So the border that I put around the list is going to be full screened. So I'm going to have to fiddle with that. And since I know this is that the image is 25%, maybe I'll see if I can set the width of the border. The width of the list to be a little bit less than that. So it looks like the list is roughly half the size of this. Okay. This might not have been a good idea. The other thing I can do is I can take the float off of the image. Let's experiment a little bit. Okay, so we'll go in here, and I'll go up to my image. You might notice, by the way, that I do a lot of playing around. So sometimes I'm not sure how things are going to work, and I experiment to get it right. Okay, so this is without the float. So now this comes after, and it's still full screen. And there's that new double border, by the way, which we hadn't tried before. I forgot to comment on that before. Alright, so let's go back down to our list. And we'll see about making the width of the list here. So width. And I think about 15%. So it's smaller than my image. Let's see how that works. Okay. So refresh. So there we go. Alright, let's try again with the float. See now if we can get it to float up here to the left. One thing I could do is I can float both. So by default, the image is going to be on the left with no float. Yeah, let's try floating the list. Let's see what happens when we do that. So float left. Just save. So because it's floating left and the picture isn't, it displaced the picture. Alright, now if I float the image, that'll put it to the left, and this will be on the right. I could also just float it to the right, but then it would be over here. Okay? So you can see how we're able to mess around with this and fiddle with this. Let's go ahead and put the float back in. And I kind of got off on a tangent here because I only showed you the first list, so I have to do the other ones too. So I'm going to add the float left back into the image. Yeah. See, the problem here is, like I mentioned, I'm starting to put a rule in here that I probably don't want to use for every normal image, and so I probably should use a different approach and either create a class of images that float to the left and the right, or use an ID tag. Okay, there we go. Alright, so things are starting to come together. Now, I think I can get this to move down here, and you do that with a clear thing. So let's try that. So we'll go back to Netbeans. And for this particular, now this is definitely not something I would put on every list. So now I'm putting some code in here that really should be specific to this item, not to every unordered list. But I want to show you how it works. So if you say clear both, that will that should force it to go down below. Let's see, wait a minute. Yeah, I think I got that right. Tom's a forgetful wizard sometimes. Whoops. No, so the clear both actually moved the list. Okay. So I actually want to put clear both on the footer. So clear both means clear left and right. Alright. I want to close the browser because I have all these things open. Let's get rid of this. It was on the wrong piece. And now I know how to fix that footer. So I'll come back up to my footer text. I might not have any. I might have to add it. So let's go ahead and just put some footer text in there. I meant footer style. And that'll force the footer to come after everything. So here we go. So footer, clear, oops, equals both. So that means clear on both the right and the left. Alright. Now I can launch this from here because I closed the browser. Go to the My List page. There we go. So again, I've got my thing, and it basically says, so before what was happening is it wasn't clear, it would move up into the normal form. If you say clear to the left, that means don't have any content on the left-hand side adjacent. If you clear both, it's the left and the right. So that moves the footer down. These are floated because this is the first one in the order. It floats to the left. The next one floats left next to it. If we want to put additional stuff in, we can float that as well. So I'll go ahead now and put my other two lists in. And I'm going to do this rather quickly here. So the HTML is easy. You're not going to have any trouble with that. So one of the things I can do real quick is I can just copy this. And that's Control-C again. Put some space in, Control-V to paste it in. Fix the indentation here. I'll just pull that back. And then I'm going to change this to an ordered list now. So it'll be, instead of a bullet, it'll be numbered. Okay? And we can just take a quick look at that immediately. If we pop over to the browser, refresh the links page. And there it is. Okay, so now I can just copy the same styling that I did on that one, and I'll have a nice border around that. Also, we should put the border radius in there. I forgot about that. Just like the way that looks with those rounded corners. So we'll go back to our CSS file, and again, it never hurts to save yourself some time. So I'm just going to copy what I have, Control C, put some white space in there just so the copy doesn't make it hard to read, and then change this to an ordered list. And while here, I'm going to go ahead and put the border radius in. So border dash radius, let's use 10px, 10 pixels, and we'll see if that works. And while I'm here, I'll just go ahead and change that to the other one too, because I want all my lists to have that. Okay, save, pop on back into Firefox, refresh the list page, and there we go. Okay, so that looks pretty nice. I kind of like that. And now let's just go ahead and do our... Now, I didn't put anything on these, obviously, yet. And one thing I can do is just copy what I already have again. So we'll go back into Netbeans. And here are the rules for the list item. By the way, if I want them to be the same, then I'll just remove the contextual header. And now that means any list item. And so now, when I refresh the page, the list items are styled the same way in the two types of lists. Okay? Alright, let's do our definition list, and then we'll call it a day for this video. So I'll pop back in here, go to the list.html page, and now let's put our definition list in here. So again, this starts with DL, ends with DL, so we put that in, make some space, and then each definition has a definition term, and whoops, I should put the closing tag in there. It offered to do that for me, and it was too quick. And then a definition, so DD, so DT and DD. Okay. So each one is going to have this, alright? So I'm going to just copy that and then paste it in. Now I have three items in the list. So I'll come up and fit in the first term. And let's see, let's do pyromancy. I'm in a Harry Potter mood here. That's divination using fire. And then excuse me, cartomancy is divination using cards. And what other mancies do we have? Let's see, cartomancy. Oh, geomancy, which is divination using the earth. And divination means telling the future. So you remember the real crazy character from Harry Potter who taught divination. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Again, there's no style on it yet. So I'll just go ahead and pop this in here. And oops, I got it open already, so I can do that. Oops, just lost my mouse. There it is. Alright, refresh the page. And there's the new list. Okay. And oh, that's kind of funny. It's not really showing it correctly there. I wonder why. Never seen that before. Let me make sure I have it right in the markup. DT, DD. Wow, that is strange. Yeah, because see, it should be showing this with the term indented, or I mean the definition indented below the term, right? So you saw how I had that on the slide. I wonder why it's not showing correctly here. What am I doing? So DT, DD. Pretty sure I have that right. Let's put some styling around that. Maybe it's just because of where it's located. I always hate when I have a little trouble like that, especially when I'm recording, right? Because it might take me 10-15 minutes to figure it out, and you don't want to see that usually. Sometimes, though, when I'm doing videos in a programming and I make a mistake, I leave the mistake in because it's helpful for my students. So again, let's copy these rules, and we're going to paste them in here for the definition style list. So I'll just change this to DL. Actually, you know, when you have these and you use them over, you can actually do something else. So since these are all the same, what I could have done is I could say UL, comma, DL, comma, OL, okay? And that's because they're the same, so then I don't end up repeating myself. But I'm doing it like this because really I'm going to eventually make them different. So, okay, so we got our DL in, we have our UL and OL. I want to make sure I didn't screw it up when I showed you that. And we'll go back to, whoops, not the PowerPoint, Firefox, refresh. There we go. So now that I have the border around that, it seems like it's displaying correctly. Looks like we need some padding and stuff in there too, though. It might be that the size here needs to be a little bit bigger on this one. So let me do that instead. I think that's what's going on here. So let's say instead of 15%, let's make this 20%. And then also I don't have any style rules on the DT and DD elements. Okay, so refresh. So that's a little bit bigger. It looks like we still need padding on there. That's weird. I thought I had that on there. Maybe I don't. Okay. Oh, so no padding. So padding is the space between the border and the content of the element. And so here I didn't have any on there. So I'll do padding. I almost always do padding in terms of characters, like 1 EM or half an EM. So let's put 1 EM here. I'm sort of surprised that I didn't need to do this on the other two lists, and I do need to on this one. So that's sort of strange. There we go. So we put the padding. It's looking better. Now we can go ahead and style the individual styles for the DT and DD elements. Okay, so we're almost finished. Let's just go ahead and play with this last bit of style for these lists. And again, I try to keep things organized, so since this is the DL, the DT and the DD should come kind of close to it in the style sheet. So DT, and then DD, and now I'll go ahead and put the style in here. Okay, so for my DT, I probably want the text to be slightly larger, so font dash size, and let's make that 1.5 EM, so it'll be a little bigger than the default, which is 1 EM. And then let's make this bold too. Let's see, is that text decoration or text style? I always forget. So text style. It doesn't like that. Oh, font style, right? So font dash style. And yeah, I wish Netbeans would give me some IntelliSense here. I think this is going to work. So, oh, wait a minute. I remember it's font weight. Isn't it horrible when you get old and you can't remember stuff? It's because you have so much stuff in your head. So font weight equals bold. Okay. And then, let's see, that's for the DT. Alright, so for the DD, font style italic. Whoops, there we go. So now I got my list. There it is. That's what I was looking for before. So italic. And let's see, we could put color in here too. Let's make, I'll make this really garish. So we'll make this red. And make this a different color just so you can see that. I'll go with the blue again. Again, I'm not really good with colors. This will look pretty funky. Alright, going over here, refresh our page. And there we go. So I got the larger colored text there. And then divination using fire, cards, and earth is italic and a slightly smaller script. Okay? So again, I don't know that you're going to use these in your site. At this point, you've got enough that you can make a site that looks the way you want. You can use the float to combine text and images on the same page. We did that on the main page. If you have a series of images, you can set them up like this. And if they're bigger, you can set them to go full screen so the user can look at the entire image. And I mean, when I take a picture with my tablet, it literally fills the screen. So, you know, they're big. Alright, I think we're in good shape. I'm not really sure what we're going to do tomorrow because I've covered a lot of this basic thing, so we'll see what we're going to do. Alright, take care. Hope you're enjoying the course.